Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Severe MMA Picks and Plays here on the Severe MMA YouTube page. I am your one half of your hosting tandem. I was going to say I'm your host. It's what I'm used to saying for most of these shows.
You're the host. You're the host,
I am
Spencer.
Spencer
Give yourself
Kite.
the credit.
He is the magpie, Ian O'Neill. We are back to discuss UFC Kansas City, which takes place on Saturday in Kansas City. He's even rocking the magpie colors. We're going to get him the magpie haircut. It's gonna be a whole thing. We're gonna get a logo built, the whole nine. Avatar to replace your picture, the whole nine. I'm going all out.
Have to fly in.
I'm gonna get Harry. I'm gonna get Harry involved to make some graphics. We're gonna do the whole 9 yards. We are here to talk about UFC Kansas City, which takes place on Saturday at T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri. Before we do, we got to go back and we got to look at last week, the return of the Magpie. The Magpie comes back to the show. We go and make picks for UFC 287. I went 7-5 with my picks, so I sit at 76, 56, and 3 for the year. Again, 20 fights to the good is okay. It's fine. I'd rather be 20 picks to the good than 20 picks to the bad, but it's still not where I want to be. You went 7-5 as well. So you are 75, 57, and 3. So you're one behind. I'm happy to have that little slim lead.
I'm actually surprised. I thought it was 6-6, but I'm not going to argue.
I mean, I can go back and double check.
No, don't.
If you want me to go back and double check? We can.
We ain't doing any recounts around here. It's official.
On the betting front last week, I had $1,043 out. Went hard, put just under half of my bankroll on the line. Cashed in $847.50 worth of wins, for a total difference of minus $195.50, a negative 18.74% ROI. But for the year, still up $39.89, just under 1% ROI. So I'm happy about that. Last week, in your full return, because for San Antonio, you had the going the distance parlay that hit, but for your full return to the show, the full Magpie comeback, you had $400 out. Cashed for $342.75. So down 57.25. And for the year, you are down $219.98. Not a number that is certainly impossible to claw back, as I proved in your absence. And I'm hoping not to get back to where you are now that
I
you're
need
back.
To start fucking clawing back, though. Let's be real. So hopefully this week... Don't like being in those negative numbers.
Being in the negative numbers is not good. I spent all last year there while I was trying to get my bearings. I feel like I've got some ideas, but then I look at the odds every week and I go, that guy's that price? I got to throw 20 bucks on that. But we will get to that stuff in a second. As always, we want to remind you, Ian and I, all of these wagers we are making are for $10. This is a fun way for us to talk about these fights and a different angle to these fights than what we've talked about throughout the week on things like the preview show and my program's 1 question and 10 things, the 10 and the 1, as Shawnee Podcast likes to call them. We want you to gamble responsibly. If you are investing, if you are actually betting on these fights, please only wager what you can afford to lose. Do it as a means of fun, of entertainment, as a side enjoyment to these fights. If at any point you feel like it is getting away from you, or someone in your family or in your friend group seems to be struggling with gambling issues, look at the show notes. There are links to gambling resources in North America, in Canada, in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and in Ireland at your disposal for you to check out, to seek help if you or someone you love needs it. Again, can't stress this enough. Please gamble responsibly. Have some fun. A little bit of money here, fine. Don't get in over your head. Nobody wants to be in over their head. We don't want you in over your head. We want you having fun like we do every week. Are you ready for this, Io?
I'm ready. Are you?
I'm ready. UFC Kansas City, headlined by a tantalizing featherweight matchup between Max Holloway and Arnold Allen. We talked about it at length on the preview show. Where did you end up, and where are you investing your dollars?
Yeah, so we kind of, on the preview show, we focused a little bit on Holloway, his situation within the division. And I think we were all kind of along the same lines where we're coming into this fight with a lot of unknowns. We don't know where Max Holloway is at. We really don't know where Arnold Allen is at as well. While we focused on Holloway on the preview show, the big occasion here is for Arnold Allen. This is his moment where he can prove to himself and prove to all of us and the fans as well that he is capable of going in there and taking out someone like Max Holloway. I think the kind of topic of conversation is that I think we all kind of feel Max Holloway is not where he used to be in his career and maybe has gone past his peak as a fighter. But the big question is he still at a level that is good enough to beat someone like Arnold Allen? And I feel that he is, Spencer. I really do. I look at the unknowns of this fight, and it's more so unknowns about how good Arnold Allen is, because if he is that good, he's going to go out there and he's going to find a way to beat Max Holloway. Stylistically, it's not a great stylistic matchup for him. I would prefer to see him in there with someone like Yair Rodriguez, who I feel he might be able to get at a little bit more. He might be able to outstrength. I think with Max Holloway, there's not too many people that we've seen being able to kind of get him down and hold him down and kind of dominate him all that much in the featherweight division, bar Conor McGregor on one leg. It has to be said, that was way, way back in the day. But Max Holloway has developed this style where I think Harry explained it beautifully on the preview show, where it's his footwork, it's his switching of stance, it's his jab and boxing that he's developed. Now, am I going to go out here and call him the best boxer in the UFC? Probably not.
You better, or else he'll box you in the face.
He'll box the ears off me, perhaps.
Yell at the commentary team about it.
Jeez, I know. And then it's like, for me, I just think at this given point with these two fighters, the way they both match up, I can't look past Max Holloway. I think he's not past his sell-by date. I would like, and we spoke about it, to see him move up to the lightweight division. But look, we have to deal with what we have to deal with, and he's here. He's in the featherweight fight. If he wins this, puts him right in line again, possibly for yet another shot at the title. And that's what seemingly is getting him going. But, you can say a lot of things. It might not materialize in the case. But that being said, my pick for this fight, I think Holloway has the tools to beat someone like Arnold Allen. And the beautiful thing about Arnold Allen, he has this chance to prove himself. And if it goes well, it's a sensational story. It's an underdog story. And he's almost guaranteed a title shot if he gets this shot. I'd be very surprised if it didn't happen. And at the same time, I wouldn't be that surprised if it didn't happen either. But if it doesn't go his way, this is a big learning curve. This is elite level competition. He was in there with Cater, and I think Cater is a top of the level featherweight. But Max Holloway, we can consider elite level status because we haven't seen anything for us to say that he's not elite level yet. Now, maybe that might show in this fight. We don't know. But my pick is Max Holloway. I think he has the tools to get the job done. And I've gone $100 straight win at -188 on Max Holloway to get that win. Will he get the finish? I don't know. Will it go to the decision? I don't know. There's prices there for that, but I'm not confident enough in knowing how Arnold Allen can deal with his forward pressure. I don't know how Arnold Allen is going to be able to deal with moving backwards a lot of the time because he's a forward-moving fighter. I think a lot of fighters, if you ask them, even though some are very good at fighting on the back foot, they always prefer fighting a fight on the front foot because it's much more difficult to implement whatever game plan that you need to do. My pick is Max Holloway. My play is Max Holloway. And I'm relatively confident about that at this time.
So I'm deviating from my own usual sort of tenets with this one, because normally in these situations, I am the guy that wants to see the young ascending fighter beat a fighter of this stature before I am ready to dive in and back them and really be on board. And I'm breaking from that here because, as I said on the preview show, as we recorded it, yourself, myself, and Harry, I feel like maybe we didn't get the breakout performance we were going to get from Arnold Allen against Calvin Kattar. And and worry that that's sort of helping frame our judgment of this. I wonder if we're giving Max Holloway too much leeway for the way the third fight with Alexander Volkanovski went, because Volkanovski is as good as he is. 2 years previous, they were razor thin. It was a coin flip fight. Still to this day, Harry made the joke on the lead of the preview yesterday that Holloway won the second fight. 2 years later, it's not close. Is that just because Volk leveled up that much? Or is there some slippage from Max? And so while I agree with you that he may still, even if he isn't Max Holloway full caps that he was at the height of his career, peak of his powers, may still be able to beat Arnold Allen. I'm going to roll with the guy that's won 10 straight in the UFC, all 10 of his UFC fights, and 12 straight overall. I don't know that he's necessarily going to have to be on the back foot the whole time. I'm really curious to see if he can come out here and implement some of the things that he did. And I know the Dan Hooker fight was one where he had to go balls to the wall because he couldn't see and he was blurry vision and all like that. But he looked good to start that fight with Calvin Kattar going forward. And Calvin Kattar is somebody that likes to go forward as well. Now, certainly not Max Holloway, but I'm just curious to see. And so for me, I am picking the upset. I am picking the underdog. I am picking Arnold Allen. And it's $20 to win. Same as you, just sticking to the straight money lines here. It's $20 at plus 150, returns $50. I will take that any day of the week. If Holloway wins, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked, but there's something about this matchup and where these two guys are at that feels like we might see a passing of the torch on Saturday. And I'm going to play on the side of that torch being passed.
And likewise, I would not be surprised if Arnold Allen did. I'm not going to be like, oh my God.
Right.
Because
it's not a shocking result either way.
No. And it's a difficult fight to call in certain respects. I'm taking a lot of confidence in Max Holloway's win over Yair Rodriguez, if I'm being honest as well. And, you know, that happened in 2021. I think Alex Volkanovski is that fucking god. We want to talk about elite level fighters. I think Alexander Volkanovski is the god of the featherweight
Newsflash,
division.
He's really goddamn good.
Yeah. So look, I think Arnold Allen is going to bring a more different style to this fight, where I don't expect him to be moving on the back foot all the time, but I don't think Max Holloway is going to allow him or want to allow him to close the distance. Right. I think that Max Holloway is going to use his jab to try and keep him away, which is going to probably form segments in this fight where, you know, Arnold will have to move on the back foot to kind of maybe, you know, reset, look at a different form of attack. It's going to be very interesting to see. I'm really excited for Arnold Allen here. Like, I mean, if I lost this bet, it's like, all right, whatever, forget about it. If I don't get this pick, all right, because what we're seeing is a new breed in the featherweight division if Arnold Allen gets this done, and I'm all here for that.
Yeah, for sure. We stick around the featherweight division for the co-main event, Edson Barboza and Billy Quarantillo. Two guys that are in their 30s, Barboza a little bit older at 37, Quarantillo 34. Kind of feels like a bit of a test for Billy Q, who's coming off a good win over Alex Hernandez at the end of last year. Barboza coming back for the first time in 13 months on a 2-fight slide. Where did you lean? Where's your money going?
I mean, like, this fight is just so hard because two of these guys are just going to stand them and fucking bang, and it's going to be pure violent, and it could be something as simple as whoever lands in the pocket first. Like, we're talking about, you know, a Dan Hardy, Carlos Condit style exchange here. Whoever lands cleaner and harder first. And it's so hard to pick fights like this. Look at Edson is getting older. Billy is no spring chicken either, though. He's what, 35, I think.
34, yeah.
34. So look at, he's a guy who's found a kind of a stride. He's been going and being in an exciting fights. This one will cater to his style quite some bit. It was, you know, coming back after that loss from Shane Burgess. You know, that's all right. You know, Shane Burgess is as tough as they come. I think put the exclamation mark on the winner, Alexander Hernandez. But after going over and back on this fight, I think if Billy comes too much, I think he will cater to the style of Barboza too. Those leg kicks are never going to go away. I think Barboza came against a guy in Bryce Mitchell who didn't want to stand and bang. It was a horrible clash of styles that didn't work out for Barboza. So I think if Billy Q decides to stand and bang, and I'm thinking he is going to want to test himself against a striker like Edson Barboza, I think it's going to make this fight interesting. I think if he walks forward onto leg kicks, it's going to be very difficult for him. My pick, I think Barboza has this one in him. I don't know how many more he has left. I don't like him fighting at featherweight at this stage of his career. It's a close one. I'm not that confident. My pick is Edson Barboza. I just think he has one more left in him. I think that if you're going to go and strike with him, he has that technical ability still. He might not have that level of explosiveness. I think he has enough to win 2 out of the 3 rounds. I can see Billy taking a round here or there. I can see this going all the way. I can see this finishing in 2 minutes. I can see, anything could happen in this fight. I'm not confident enough to put a big bet on or anything like that, but I do have one of these guys. Well, I think I've given away who I have as part of the parlay.
It would be very interesting. It would be very interesting if you had picked Barboza and then had Billy Q in a parlay.
Yeah, it can't. Hey, I'm not
the
I
ultimate
ain't ruling
hedge.
that out. Yeah, absolutely. My pick is Barboza. We've stuck him in a parlay a little bit later on that we'll discuss down the line.
So one of the things we've sort of touched on already just through a fight and a half is that a lot of these fights are really close. They're really difficult to pick. The odds are super tight. There's no gargantuan favorites on this card. There's no, this person is a landslide. I don't have them up in front of me right now, but I think there's maybe one person that's minus 200 or more, and that's Matheus Nicolau, who we'll get to a little later. Everything else we're within sort of plus 100, minus 110.
Almost every fight, dude.
These are mostly coin flips. And so you're going to get some opportunities to get your money in. It also means there's real opportunities to lose a bunch of money. I'm of the same belief as you. I look at, and this isn't doing the MMA math of each of these guys fighting Shane Burgos back to back, where Barboza gets the victory, Quarantillo goes out 6 months later and catches a loss. But it's just the style of that fight, because I do think it's going to look like each of their respective fights with Shane Burgos. And it was a competitive fight for both guys, but Barboza was just able to be a little bit faster, a little bit sharper, a little more technical, and a little more varied, right? As you said, the leg kicks don't go anywhere. You know that the first thing he's going to throw is one of those leg kicks, and then he's going to stick a jab in your face. And so I, like you, am worried about 37 and featherweight and having to make the cut and all of those things. But I think he's still got one more in him. I think he's still got this one in him. So I'm picking Barboza as well. I've got $20 on him to win at plus 150, returns 50, similar to Arnold Allen. Throwing $10 on there for a finish at plus 325, just because it's plus 325. And that is a number that is a little bit too high for me to stay away from at $10. And I've also got him in a little parlay later on. The first of 2 light heavyweight matchups is Dustin Jacoby versus Azamat Murzakanov. Pair of top 15 guys, pair of guys looking to move forward in the division. Who do you like here, and have you laid out any money anywhere?
I like one person, and I have laid out a little bit of money as well, and we'll talk about it. I think this fight for me was like, I think last week I talked about Michelle Waterson versus Luciana Pinheiro, how I changed my mind so much as I was watching tape. But this is another fight like that for me. And I ended up on the right person last week. I hope I can end up on the right person this week. This is going to be a fantastic fight and a fascinating fight. Look at Jacoby is a fantastic striker, former glory kickboxer. Murzakanov likes to kind of play around on the feet as well, mix up his striking with some grappling as well, kind of keeps his opponents guessing, but he doesn't really rely on his grappling all too much. He's light on his feet. He's a tricky southpaw. Murzakanov, I like how precise he is in his shots, but he doesn't throw that much. And I think that might be a little bit of a problem in this fight with Jacoby. He can close the distance, Murzakanov. I'm interested to see it if he wants to do that here. I would be expecting to see that against a striker like Jacoby. But he won't have to try to close the distance too much because Jacoby is a guy who's going to fight in your face. He's a guy who's going to fight in the pocket. You could see in Murzakanov last fight against Tafan and Chukwi that he had a sense of relief on his face when he landed that flying knee, because Chukwi is a big boy. He is a big fella, and he's not easy to get out of there. But, he maintains that explosiveness in round 3. That's going to stand to him. He hurt Clark multiple times when he fought him as well. That great body shot from ground and pound, that's what Murzakanov is looking for. He's not throwing much, but every time he does throw, he's throwing with great impact and with intentions to hurt you. That always makes for an exciting fight. And I'm interested to see how just Dustin Jacoby comes in here and kind of gets in his face, moves forward, tries to put him on the back foot. Like when Jacoby uncorks his right hand, it's absolutely vicious fight-ending power. He doesn't really tire all that much. I think he has enough to keep Murzakanov off of him, because I think the great I think to pinpoint what could happen in this fight, I think Murzakanov might find it a little bit too much to face off against Jacoby solely on the feet. I feel like he's going to try and close the distance, but I think Jacoby has enough to keep him off of him. And I think that he's going to force Murzakanov to move backwards, and I think Jacoby is going to land the better shots altogether. That's why I've picked Justin Jacoby in this fight. And I have him as a part of a parlay that we're going to talk about later on. Fucking super close fight here. I could not defend making a prediction bet, putting anybody in it, and putting big money down on a normal bet. We've stuck him into a parlay. I'm looking forward to this one, man. I mean, this is a fight if you don't know what you're going to be looking at. Like, I'm looking forward to this the same way as you're looking forward to this, because we went and we watched back tape and we can see the intricacies of it and how these guys match up. And it's very interesting to see how both of these fighters deal with each of their perspective styles in this fight.
Yeah, the thing about this for me that had me curious and had me sort of unsettled initially is that Azamat Murzakanov is undefeated. He's 12-0 as a professional. His nickname is The Professional. He looked better in his second fight against Devin Clark than he did in his debut against Tafan Chukwi, which, as you mentioned, ends in the third round, kind of an exhausted flying knee that lands. And as you said, big sigh of relief that he gets home and he gets done.
Forgivable that he was tired, because Chukwi is a fucking monster.
For sure. The thing that really threw it for me and that pushed me to the Jacoby side is just the measurables. There's a height difference here. There's a 5-inch reach difference here. We're getting orthodox versus southpaw. I don't think it's that much of a difference or a challenge for Dustin Jacoby because of that kickboxing background. He's used to facing fighters of various stances, of switch stances, things like that. And I also think he's just going to be able to go out there and bang home low kicks and just tear up that lead leg and get Murzakanov to a point, not where he's a sitting duck, because Jacoby isn't really a guy that's going out there and running people over and getting big finishes. He's a chip away guy. He's a death by 1,000 cuts guy. He's got power, as you said. Right hand carries a wallop, but he's more interested in being precise and being technical and mixing up his levels with all of his shots, whether that's punches or kicks. And I think he's just going to go out there and be clinical and be surgical and get this done. That being said, it is a stay away fight for me in terms of wagers, because I wouldn't be surprised if Murzakanov is able to come out here and look really good and get a win and drag Dustin Jacoby to the ground and get a victory there, or even just beat him up on the fence a little bit and rough him up. And so I'm with you on the Jacoby side of things, but I'm not putting any money on it.
Yeah, I'm interested. Murzakanov does this kind of cool thing with his distance, where he's kind of like very, like I said, light on his feet and in and out kind of karate style, which, like you excellently said, will leave him open to the leg kick. But he's hopping up and down, and then the hop will go in, the hop will go out, the hop will go in, the hop will go out. And then one of those times when he's coming in with that big overhand left. And that's going to be interesting to see. He's going to be looking for that at the start of the fight. There's no doubt about it. and just Dustin Jacoby is going to be right there in front of him. But we have that beautiful thing where we have orthodox versus southpaw, so Jacoby's going to be looking for his right too. So we could see one of these guys drop. I expect this to be kind of a tactical battle that probably will go the distance, but I wouldn't be surprised to see one of these guys dropping off either if they do get hit clean from either side. But super close fight, man. I'm really intrigued about this one. It's kind of one of the, apart from the main event, well, the Barboza and Quarantillo are good because it's going to be exciting, but I do like these tactical kind of battles as well. I'm interested to see what both guys bring to the table.
Well, I don't think the next fight is going to be a particularly tactical battle. We stick around the light heavyweight division. Ion Cutelaba and Tanner Boser coming down from heavyweight. Who did you pick? Where did you lay your money, if anywhere?
Look, Boser was a guy who was just outsized at heavyweight. I know I'm not going to preach from the rooftops about guys moving down or dropping down from weight too much, but I think this was a wise move for him. He was outsized. He was outstrengthened in his last battle with Nascimento. I think this matchup with Ion Cutelaba is going to suit him much better because I think Ion will stand and bang with him in stages as well. I'm curious. Look, we've seen Cutelaba in recent fights initiate grappling as well. I'm interested to see if he's able to kind of do that with Boser. I would expect Boser to probably be the naturally bigger guy when they both step in there on Saturday night. Cutelaba is dangerous early. What I would like to see from Tanner Boser, and if I was Tanner Boser's coach, I would say, be careful early here with Cutelaba. Look to clinch, look to tire him out, put your weight on him, make him feel your weight, and then go to work. Now, the question is, we have not seen Tanner Boser in the UFC at light heavyweight. Will he have the energy to maintain that if he sets a kind of a hard grappling pace early against the clinch, or maybe tries to take him down? I wouldn't imagine we'll see that. I think we will see Boser close the distance, clinch against the cage, make Cutelaba work, tire out his arms, take away some of that power, and then to turn on the gas after that. And if that fight goes that way, I think Boser is going to get the win. And that's why I've picked him, but I've not put a bet on. I've stayed away from this fight because I do not know how Tanner Boser is going to react in the late stages of round 2 and round 3 at light heavyweight.
So I agree with all of that assessment. And in looking at this fight, I just hope Tanner Boser has looked at the Kennedy and Nzechukwu fight against Ion Cutelaba last time out. Carry him into the second round, have some success in the first where you're making him wear you and carry you. You're doing some work to the body. You're tiring him out a little bit. And then you put him away a minute and change into the second round. Like you, I think Tanner Boser fits in this division, and I expect him to look good tomorrow on the scales. We'll wait and see. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully everything has gone well. I couldn't bring myself to not bet on this fight. I just couldn't bring myself, because Ion Cutelaba comes in on a 3-fight losing streak. As I said on the preview show, he is a sub 500 fighter in the UFC. I understand why he's the very slight favorite, but I also look at Tanner Boser and go, if you are anywhere near as good as I think you can be just in this division by moving down, carrying some of those things that made you interesting but ineffective at heavyweight with you to this division, you should be able to go out here, get a victory, and in my estimation, get a finish. And so we've got $50 on Boser to win at plus 100, turn 50 into 100, just a pure double up proposition. And then $20 on Boser to get a finish at plus 220, which returns $64. I've got Ion Cutelaba up in front of me here. And every time this boy loses, he's getting finished.
Yeah, man. And that's a great price, dude. That's a great price at 220.
A guy that doesn't like seeing the scorecards. I think Tanner Boser is going to get the win quite literally every single fight. It's save for one. The only guy that beat Ion Cutelaba and didn't get him out of there, ironic to me, is Jared Cannonier, who then went down to middleweight and was getting finishes and had fought at heavyweight getting finishes.
And you'd look at the mindset of Boser coming down here. He's going to want to make a statement in the light heavyweight division as well. And fuck it, Spencer, we need it here in Canada. We need something to kind of talk about. We need a couple of these guys to pick up wins to lead us into that UFC 289 card as well. If Tanner Boser comes in here and gets a finish against Ion Cutelaba, why not throw him in there against some top 10 or top 15 opponents in light heavyweight? Let's get him on that card in June as well. And let's give us something to talk about.
He doesn't want to be stuck on a 2-fight losing streak in one of these guys that's 1-4 in his last 5 fights, right? That's the other piece of this that made the move down make sense to me. That, as you just said, makes me think he comes in here, house on fire, guns ablazing, and gets a victory on Saturday. We move to the bantamweight division, one of the more fascinating fights on this card, Pedro Munhoz versus Chris Gutierrez, the veteran versus the ascending, kind of dark horse, kind of late bloomer, if you will, in Chris Gutierrez. Who do you like? Who got your money?
Not stylistically, but it's kind of like a diluted version of the main event as well, where we have this guy who's been the veteran and been a stalwart in the bantamweight division for many years, and Chris Gutierrez, who has come in and is in a real good vein of form right now, getting that first round knockout. And look, it was tough to watch against Frankie Edgar, but you have to give Chris Gutierrez the credit. He went in there and got it done. Dana Bakary in the fight before that, a guy who was a monster and a very dangerous guy. He went and stood toe to toe with that guy and got him out of there very impressively as well. So, you know, he's turning the unanimous decisions and the split decisions into finishes. And that's what you want to be doing. And now he has a chance. I think this is going to be, he got the veteran test against Frankie Edgar, but he got a veteran whose unfortunate chin was fucked. Frankie Edgar's chin is fucked. He is gone. Pedro Munhoz, not so much. So I think this is the asterisk kind of veteran test for him. And we're going to find out whether Pedro Munhoz, Pedro Munhoz is one of these underrated guys that has always been thereabouts in the bantamweight division. I think, and I mentioned it on the UFC preview show, he's been in there with some good level competition. He lost himself a couple of years back to Edgar, lost to Aldo and Cruz as well. But
he beat Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, he definitely did. And that's fair. But like, I thought he was relatively competitive in that Sean O'Malley fight. He was making Sean O'Malley question
something. Won the first round and all 3 scorecards.
Won the first round as well. So, I mean, he's as legit as they come still, although he's probably not at the best of his abilities coming in here. I'm looking at a guy in Chris Gutierrez that hits hard and hits impactfully. And it's something that I've been looking at a lot more as I get more educated in judging and how I analyze fights. Because, you know, to know what the judges are looking for us is very helpful, but it also is for fighters as well. And we've seen Gutierrez go in there and he does land impactfully. I think he's going to be the quicker fighter. I think he's going to be able to somewhat dictate the pace in this fight as well. And I've gone for Chris Gutierrez to cause the upset here. Do I think he gets the finish? I don't know, but I do think that he has the skills, he has the speed, and he has the power to convince the judges over 3 rounds here. But he's going to be made work for every fucking ounce of it on Saturday night. I'm really excited about this fight too. You know, this is a great card. When you really look at this card,
when you actually sit down and look at it, it's a very good card.
Good card, man. There's lots of interesting fights and lots of interesting storylines that could come out of this. Gutierrez is looking to kind of stake his claim in the top 10 of the bantamweight division. He goes out there, gets a win over Pedro Munhoz, and you couldn't deny him that. I've picked Gutierrez. I've put him in a parlay that we'll talk about a little bit later on. You know, not knowing how far Pedro Munhoz has gone in his career, whether he's capable of taking the shots. Yep. I'm not seeing that he's not able to take those shots yet. So that's why I'm not confident in kind of lumping in on a Gutierrez win here. I'm happy enough to pick him and stick him in a parlay. But, you know, this is a fucking close fight, man.
You said there, Gutierrez go out and get the upset. He is the betting favorite in this fight, even though it's one of those instances where we have the higher ranked fighter in the veteran Munhoz as the underdog to Gutierrez. It's sort of that fight for me. And I've said this all week, including on the preview show. It's rare that we get a guy like Chris Gutierrez, who is 31 years old, who has 9 fights into his UFC career, unbeaten in his last 8, won 4 straight. And I'm sitting here going, I still just don't know. I don't have a great sense. Maybe some of that is me doing the, not even revisionist, but just sort of diminishing things. Beating Frankie Edgar last year in Madison Square Garden, I can't put a lot of weight to it. Frankie Edgar shouldn't have been in there. beating Dinah Bakkeril is a good win because we know how dangerous he can be, but it's not a guy that's up in that upper tier. And before that, it's Felipe Kalarish, it's Andre Ewell, it's a draw with Cody Durden. And so he just hasn't been in there for me, even with that middle class guy. Like, we haven't even seen him in there with a Davy Grant, for instance, right? Who was sort of that mid-pack litmus test. The one time we did was his debut against Raoni Barcelos, and Barcelos got the better of him. That was years ago. He's certainly improved. But unlike the main event where I was like, nah, I'm going to go with the guy that hasn't beaten the guy yet, I'm sticking with the veteran here. And some of that is probably that I've had a long relationship with Pedro Munhoz. I look at these fights that he's been in and I look at the level of competition and I say he can still hang with those upper tier guys, right? As we said, wins the first round against O'Malley, fought hard and well against Dominic Cruz in a 3-round fight, fought well against Jose Aldo, beat Jimmy Rivera. I thought he beat Frankie Edgar. Been in there with Aljamain Sterling, Cody Garbrandt, all kinds of guys. Never been finished in his career. Going to come out and I think try to do his very best to chip away at those legs and to land some big shots. Gutierrez does very well to not get hit. One of his best traits is his defensive abilities and his ability to stay out of range. But I'm siding with the veteran here. And so I've got $20 on Munhoz to win at plus 170, which returns $54. $10 on Munhoz to win by decision at plus 350, because that is just too big of a number for me. I don't think he's able to get Gutierrez out of there, but I think he can win 2 of 3 rounds, if not 3 of 3 rounds. So 10 turns into 45, $30 total, just under $100 coming back if the veteran gets the victory. He's also included in that parlay I talked about earlier. So there's a bunch of stakes here on Barboza and Munhoz and another Brazilian later on, but we will get to her later. We kick off the main card in the lightweight division. The Carpenter, Clay Guida against Rafa Garcia. Who do you like? Who are you betting on?
I quite like both of these gentlemen, but unfortunately you can only pick one. And look at it, I'm just in awe of Clay Guida. I mean, his energy, the fact that he's still competing at the top level in the UFC in 2023 is just phenomenal. You know, you said something that really resonated about how I was thinking about this fight and kind of helped me make my decision in the pick of this fight, is that, you know, Clay Guida is getting in there. He's being competitive, but he reaches a certain point where, you know, he just doesn't have the capabilities of winning fights when it gets to a certain level. Now, I'm not sure. That's my uncertainty around this fight. Is he going to meet this level with Rafa Garcia?
What level is Rafa Garcia?
Yeah, because we've seen him fight at very high levels and we've seen him fight at not very high levels in there. And I mean, is he going to look at this fight? I analyze based off what I see, but I also try to put myself in other people's shoes and what they may be thinking coming in. You know, Rafa Garcia is going to look at this fight as a chance to take out a very well-known veteran, you know, a UFC Hall of Famer. And, you know, that's the kind of mentality you need to have to garner some motivation to train really hard, to perform really well. And I'm thinking with Garcia, we might see that, whereas that you're never going to win an easy fight against Clay Guida. You might catch him in a submission. You might catch him with a shot. It's so hard to put him away. But I think that Rafa Garcia might be just that little bit more athletic and that little bit better in different departments here as this fight progresses. And that's why I've kind of gone for Rafa Garcia. I've put him in as part of a parlay. You know, like, I would love to see Clay Guida win this fight. I'd be shouting from the rooftops. I'd be saying, what a guy. I'd be fucking bigging it up for him. But that's my heart speaking. My head has to go for Rafa Garcia in this fight. But I mean, this could potentially be, Garcia could go in there and wipe the floor with him, but also Guida could go in there and just put a pace on him and make him uncomfortable and put that doubt in his mind and take all of that confidence away from him from a very early stage. And that's what I'm very excited to see in this fight. It's a really close one.
Yeah, so you said you would be happy if Clay Guida gets a win and you would be shouting from the rooftops. I would be as well. He is my pick. He is my play. He is $10 to win on Clay Guida at plus 200, which returns $30. It's not a big play. It's just throw $10 on the guy that debuted in 2006 that has been here forever. The reason I'm picking Clay Guida is what you said there at the end. I think when I look at who Rafa Garcia has fought, who he's beaten, and who he's lost to is also a piece in there. And I've got his resume up in front of me. So the debut loss, Nasrat Haqparast at short notice, fine, whatever. His second fight, he loses to Chris Grutzmacher, who to me is sort of like a B version of Clay Guida, right? Just a kind of grimy, gritty, come forward, wrestle a little bit, throw some hands, but nothing. He's even got the long, stringy hair like Clay. Then he goes out and he beats Natan Levy, who was debuting at the time off the Contender Series, hadn't really fought anybody on his way up. It's an okay win. It's aging well as Natan Levy continues to get a couple of victories. He defeated Jesse Ronson, a Canadian guy who has failed to successfully earn a victory in the UFC in multiple attempts. There were point deductions in there. There was an illegal knee, a bunch of different stuff. It's a win. Fine. Loses to Drakkar Klose, guy I know you think very highly of, just gets out wrestled. And then beats Mahashate last time out. And I think looking at that, I go, Drakkar Klose and Chris Grutzmacher, what do they do well? They close the distance and they wrestle. What does Clay Guida do well? He closes the distance and he wrestles. So Clay Guida, get out there and wrestle, boy. Get out there and wrestle. Get yourself a victory. Turn this into a 2-fight winning streak. Give us 40-year-olds reason to scream and cheer on Saturday. Let's go. We move to the prelims. Bill Algeo, TJ Brown, featherweight division. Who do you like? Anybody getting any money from you?
In this fight, what do I have? Funny, in my notes have parlay, maybe. I can't remember whether I stuck them in the parlay. Did I? Yes, I did. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Look at Brown has some nice power. He went out there against Eric Silva and dropped him with the first exchange in the last fight. Very aggressive ground game, likes to move forward, pressure his opponents, creates mad scrambles. You know, Silva gave up a lot of positions in those scrambles. And I'm not so sure that Bill Algeo will do the exact same thing in this fight, really, to be honest. I think Algeo is similar enough to Brown in his well-roundedness, but it's just much better everywhere. Much more of a polished fighter, much more patient on the feet, much more patient in his grappling, is not going to panic in the scrambles. I feel that where TJ Brown created that madness in the Silva fight and he ended up on top, I think if he does the same here, I think Algeo is kind of experienced enough and knowledgeable enough and skillful enough to kind of change those to his favor. He came up against an in-form Andre Touchy-Feely in the last fight, and there ain't nothing wrong with dropping a split decision.
Good competitive fight, yeah.
100%. When Feely is on, man, he is fucking on, and he's tough to beat. So, look at. I also think he has a capability, and I'll go way back to him going the distance with Brendan Loughnane as well, who that kind of loss has really gone down well, considering what we've seen with Brendan lately as well. So I just think that the better fighter is Bill Algeo in this fight. I think he's going to get the win, and I've put him in a distance. We have to go in the distance parlay again. I've stuck him in. I've stuck Algeo to Ket. He might go out there. He's not a known finisher, so that's why I've stuck this fight for a distance. I just think that he's going. I think I'd be surprised. You know, Brown may have miniature success at certain stages of this fight, but overall, I could see. I go and predict really Bill Algeo to win a unanimous decision, and a rather comfortable one at that too.
Yeah, I do as well. I think you nailed it when you said he's just the more polished fighter, right? You look at sort of where they came up, who they fought on the way up, who they've fought in the UFC since. Bill Algeo is an East Coast guy. He's from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, battled in Ring of Combat and CFFC and all of those good shows on the East Coast where you're fighting good, tough, battle-tested dudes all the time. TJ Brown, not so much. While the results in the UFC for each of them have been about 500, sort of win one, lose one inconsistency, the level of competition for Bill Algeo has just been significantly higher. You mentioned Andre Fili. He defeated Joe Anderson Brito before that. He beat Herbert Burns. He was in there with Ricardo Lamas at one point on short notice. Like, fought some good dudes that are just outside of, if not in the top 15, whereas TJ Brown hasn't quite gotten there. I do think there is the risk of Bill Algeo getting stuck on bottom and being too accepting of being on bottom and trusting in his own jiu-jitsu a little bit too much. That's where TJ Brown is going to have success if he wants to get the victory, as in that takedown department and maintaining that top control. But I just don't know that he's going to get past the jab and past the low kicks and past everything that Bill Algeo is just firing out there at him. I think it goes the distance as well. I like that for you as a play with your parlay. I'm staying away from it just because it's one of those, feels a little bit, this is normally the spot where I would slip on a banana skin. And so I'm just staying away. I'm not a big TJ Brown guy. I picked Eric Silva last time out. I remember that. I know that. I'm owning that. And so I'm staying away because I don't need TJ Brown to trip me up again. We move to the flyweight division, a fight that is absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait for it. Brandon Royval, Matheus Nicolau, number 4 versus number 5. To my money, the second best fight on this card, and it should be, in my estimation, a title eliminator. Who have you got? And are you betting on either of them?
Oh, I've got someone, and we betting as well. Look, I think Harry explained his thoughts on the type of fighter that Matheus Nicolau is very well on the preview show, and he is growing into an elite level fighter, and this is his moment against a tough guy like geez, I'm looking straight at his name, Royval. I was looking at it and I still couldn't get it out. A tough guy in Royval, but I think that he has all the tools. Look, we know what Brandon Royval is going to want to do here. He's going to want to do what we were talking about in the last fight that TJ Brown does so well, is create those mad scrambles, close the distance, grapple, very opportunistic when he creates those scrambles and getting position and getting submissions. But I just think that Nicolau mightn't even give him the chance to get there. I think he's going to keep this fight on the feet, where he's the much better, much more technical and much more powerful striker. And I think that he's going to, Harry said he feels he's going to truck him. I was like, well, but then I went back and watched more tape and I'm like, yeah, that's a fair statement. And that's what I've gone in on here. I think Matheus Nicolau is the future of the 125-pound division. I think we're going to see him fight for a title before the end of the year. I think he goes out here. I think he smokes Brandon Royval. I've picked Matheus Nicolau to win. I've put $100 on him to get a finish at plus 170. And that's it. That's all said and done. Matheus Nicolau.
If Matheus Nicolau becomes the future of the division, I will be standing over here going, because I said it a couple of months ago that this guy might just be the best. I think you, me, and Harry did who's the guy in the division as we were doing sort of our recaps of the year. Who's the guy that we're looking at? And I was like, what if it's just Matheus Nicolau? Like, give this dude a shot. Went out, trucked Matt Schnell last time out. Both guys actually coming in off wins over Danger into this one. I'm of the same belief as you and of Harry. Matheus Nicolau is just a better overall fighter to me. Brandon Royval needs to create chaos in order to have success. He has terrible takedown defense. It's like 39%, which is not good. It's okay for him in many instances because, as you said, he's able to create scrambles. I don't even know if he's going to be able to create scrambles if Nicolau decides to put him on the ground.
Yeah.
We may just stay there. We may just hang out and see the superior jiu-jitsu fighter rather than the superior overall grappler, or not maybe even superior overall grappler, but a very good grappler in Royval, be able to scramble and create some of those instances that have led to success for him in the past. I think this is going to be a fight, as you said, where Nicolau really shines, really stands out, earns himself a championship opportunity, hopefully gets the opportunity to jump on the microphone and say, I want the winner of that fight sometime in the end of the year. And we get there. As of right now, I've chickened out from betting on this fight because Brandon Royval's a mad bastard and he could do weird stuff. And I'm not there yet. But I'm going to look at it again. So if I do add something, I will let all of you know on Twitter. It will be added to the pile. It will be added to the collection All the numbers will go in. Nicolau just feels like, I think he's minus 188 the last time I looked, and I thought, is that where I want to get in? Do I like that number enough that I can get in there? I might have to. We'll see. We move to the middleweight.
Do it.
Yeah, I don't need any voices of magpies convincing me to spend more money. Come on. We move to the middleweight division. A pair of returning veterans, Zak Cummings, Kansas City's own Zak Cummings, taking on Ed Short Fuse Herman. Which of the veterans do you like, and did either of them merit any money from you?
They didn't merit any money. This is at 205. I think you mentioned middleweight, or is it mid? Am I reading that right?
You are correct. It is at 205.
205. Two guys.
My
look
mistake.
at Spencer. This is a difficult one. Two guys who haven't fought in a long time. Two veterans. Two guys getting later on in their career. About Sherman's 42 now, I think, at this stage. Cummings in his late 30s as well. And there's a lot of unknowns coming in here after not seeing either of these guys. Look, at Cummings wants to get that win at home. I think Ed Herman is probably coming in here with the power advantage, and I think Cummings is probably going to want to come in here and create, a minute on the feet, maybe a minute or two clinching up against the cage, trying to frustrate Ed Herman. He doesn't want to be finding himself fighting on the feet with Ed Herman dictating the range, because that's where Ed Herman can get off his big shots. And I think he's going to have to fight either all the way out in this fight or all the way in, and try and integrate some takedowns or some kind of clinch work into his striking somehow. And I think Zak Cummings is capable of getting that done. And that's why I've picked him for this fight. But I ain't confident enough to put down a bet, because, Ed short fuse Herman, that fuse is still short, even a 42, baby. He connects with you clean, he will hurt you. And it'll be interesting to see how Zak Cummings can kind of combat that. But looking at Ed Herman, look at that 42, Spencer, not having had competed for a little while. And yes, Cummings is the same too, but I'm wondering how Ed Herman looks in here. Has he lost a little bit of a step? Because I would expect Cummings to be kind of moving a lot quicker on the feet as well, and a lot quicker to initiate the grappling sequences. So that's why I've gone for Cummings in this fight as my pick, but I'm staying the hell away from this fight. Ain't even good enough to get in one of those famous parlays.
So I went the opposite direction. I played the other side. I like Ed Herman here, and it's in part because he's on the shorter of the two layoffs, right? Neither of them has fought since August. Ed Herman, it's August 2021. Zak Cummings, it's August 2020. He spent the last almost 3 years now dealing with back issues. He's talked about it, right? Laid up on a couch on his back, just dealing with misery. He's also talked about this being the ride off into the sunset fight. And that always feels like a little bit of when's the last time we saw somebody really go out and have a great performance? And we probably have, right? Probably one recently. It feels like we've had a lot of retirements this year where people have decided enough is enough. It's time for me to go. But I can't remember one where it was that was great. They had a great performance and now they're going to go. And so I just think that for all of the things you said, for all of the things we've talked about here, I'm going with the slightly fresher, if that makes sense, guy of the two.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit less rust. There's just a little bit less rust, which is a fitting word to use for old rusty Ed Herman. And I can't stay away from it. I can't. You're going to give me the guy that has the shorter layoff and the more recent solid victories to me. I'm going to play Ed Herman. $50 on Ed Herman to win it, plus 175. We're going to try to turn 50 into 137.50. This is a coin flip fight. I could be lighting a $50 bill on fire here, folks, but we may also be pulling in an $87 profit.
That's a bombshell, right?
Let's go, short fuse. Again,
bombshell.
You and Clay Guida and me, the 40-year-olds. Let's do it. Let's go. Brings us to a fight I am really looking forward to in the strawweight division. Gillian Robertson versus Piera Rodriguez. Robertson coming down after a number of fights at flyweight. It is her first fight at strawweight in, I believe, 10 fights, 11 fights.
Mhm.
Piera Rodriguez, 2-0 in the UFC, undefeated overall at 9-0. Who do you like? Any plays here?
I'm going to try and keep it quick and nimble. This time has flown talking about these fights. We're up on 55 already. I'm wondering if Gillian Robinson experienced Rose Namajunas in her grappling contest that she beat her in the last times that she competed, and thought, hey, maybe I can make it down to that level and compete. I don't know. I think she's going to have a tough time of it here because Rodriguez is likely just to want to sprawl and brawl in this. She passed the Sam Hughes test, which is a good test. We saw that it's not an easy test to pass for the majority of fighters. I think Piera Rodriguez is the type of fighter that Gillian Robertson hates fighting against. You look at Gillian Robertson's career. If she's able to get the fight down, she's super dominant. But when she's not, she's massively exposed on the feet. Talia Santos kept her on the feet. She lost a unanimous decision. Miranda Maverick did the same. She lost a unanimous decision. JJ Aldrich did the same. She lost a unanimous decision. And I think that Gillian Robertson is going to lose a unanimous decision in this fight as well against Piera Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez is going to keep the fight on the feet. She's going to get off her shots, and that's going to bring her the decision. And we're going the distance that's in the parlay that we'll talk about a little bit later on. And that's it. That's all I have to say about that fight.
I'm in the same boat as you, and it's why I was very surprised to find Piera Rodriguez as a plus 100 underdog. So I think you know where this is going. $200 on Piera Rodriguez to win. Let's turn 2 into 4. I just can't see her getting taken down and controlled on the ground or subbed out by a Gillian Robertson that is cutting weight and moving down and like struggled to get to 115 the last couple times she tried to get to 115. She can say all the things she has said about I'm going to be a different fighter. She's set up at the Goat Shed in Orlando with a good team, with good people around her. She seems happy. She seems focused. All of those things are great. This is not submission grappling. This is not straight grappling. This is mixed martial arts. And she doesn't have the wrestling to get into her grappling game. Piera Rodriguez picks her apart on the feet, bloodies her up, beats her up, gets the victory. We turn 200 into 400. Let's go, Piera Rodriguez.
Solid bet. Look at and you worry about the gas tanks. So Rodriguez has tried, true, and tested in her fights with Kay Hansen and Sam Hughes as well. Like that's the kind of only exclamation mark you could maybe put, or the asterisk you could put on her. But she's tried, true, and tested there as well. I went for the distance, man. You have me thinking about that plus 100. You have me thinking. I mean, that's a good
plus 100 to win. Just go out, get a victory. Win 2 out of 3 rounds. Help me turn 200 into 400. I like $200 profits. We move to the lightweight division. Lando Vannata comes back up, takes on the golden boy, Daniel Zellhuber. Who do you like? Anybody getting money?
So we talked about Zellhuber last week, and Trey Ogden was in there and fought him. And one of the biggest things that I noticed in that fight was Zellhuber's inability to kind of throw punches in bunches. And he needs to do that in this fight against Lando Vannata. Vannata is going to fight the style of fight that we know he can fight, and that's on the feet, flashy strikes, in and out with his boxing. Might initiate a couple of grappling sequences just to kind of get Zellhuber thinking a little bit. But who hits harder of the two? That's Zellhuber. Who's going to learn a little bit from that loss against Trey Ogden? I think that's Zellhuber as well. My pick for this fight is Zellhuber. I'm glad that Lando Vannata has moved up. He's going to have lots more energy. You should probably see a higher output from him as well, which should make for an interesting fight. I think if Zellhuber gets out of that habit of not throwing or only throwing 1 and 2 punches at a time, if he throws 3s and 4s in stages of this fight, I know he's going to land harder. He's the bigger guy, he's the more athletic guy, and he's my pick for this fight, but no bets, because you never know what crazy shit Lando Vannata can pull out of his bag.
Along with that part, Zellhuber is getting the I need to see it for me. And so I'm picking Vannata. Part of it is strength of schedule. You look at the guys that he's faced. It's been quality, established veteran talent the whole way through. Zellhuber, fine. It's his debut. That certainly carries some jitters and some nervousness, but he didn't have a lot to offer Trey Ogden. And thus far, I haven't seen a lot out of Trey Ogden that makes me believe that this kid is going to really fully turn it around. Now, I have the utmost respect for Eric Nixick and the crew at Extreme Couture that is getting Daniel Zellhuber ready. I think he will be better than he was against Trey Ogden, but I'm siding with Vannata. And again, similar to the Piera Rodriguez fight, you're giving me the guy that I like at a plus 100 price. So we're going to throw $50 on Lando Vannata, try to turn 50 into 100 again, similar to the Ed Herman thing. We're riding with some of these veterans. We're riding with some of these guys that have been around for a while. This could go horribly awry.
We're going hard early on this fight card as well.
I'm very glad that it is only play money. We move to the strawweight division again. Bruna Brasil versus Denise Gomes. All Brazilian battle. Who do you like? Who's getting your money?
I know that you're really looking forward to this fight. You waxed lyrical about Bruna Brasil, and rightfully so. For her,
you went back and watched that fight, didn't you?
Oh, I did all day long, and that was a fantastic, brutal, vicious head kick knockout. And look, Brazil has a great size, a great length. For the division as well. She's going to be a big woman in there. And you know what? She went in there and she took down Marnik Mann in that contest, and she's fighting a similar sized opponent here in Denise Gomes as well. And you know, that's beneficial for a fighter because, you know, if you're training for different sizes and different styles, I think she's basically training for the same type of fighter twice in a row here. And I'm expecting to see a similar result, and that's why I've picked Brazil to win. I've put her as a part of a parlay because I just don't know whether Denise Gomes is going to be good enough or not to kind of stay away from her power to make it frustrating. But I think that Brazil is very well rounded, and I think I'm not even going to waste any more time. I'm just going to let you talk a little bit more about Bruna Brasil because I know that you're very, very high on this woman.
So, I mean, it's all the things that you said. I don't really need to add much, right? She has good size for the division at 5'6". Perfect takedowns in her contender series. I think she was 3 for 3, maybe 4 for 4. She's able to mix it up, do a little bit of everything. And I just think the other part of this for me, as I said yesterday, is Denise Gomes is just relatively young, relatively raw, relatively inexperienced. And so this ends up being one of those fights where a couple of years down the line, it could be a more competitive fight. But in the here and now, I just think that Bruna Brasil is considerably more developed, has more weapons, has more avenues to victory. And as such, I'm going $200 on Bruna Brasil to win at minus 170. Turn that 200 into 317.65. I can't help myself, Ayo. I can't keep myself from making these wagers.
You're like, oh yeah, we're going to just kind of ease yourself into the top of this card. No, we're going hard early.
We're diving in. We're just diving in. I love it. We're going to know right out of the gate whether we're having a good day or a bad day. Why wait? She's also part of my all Brazilian parlay that I'll get to here momentarily. Ooh. Next up, Aaron Phillips, Gaston Boilanos in the bantamweight division. The return of Aaron Phillips, debut for Gaston Boilanos. Your thoughts, your plays.
Yeah, Aaron Phillips back. He had a brief run, I think, in the UFC back in 2014, 15. Couple of different ones here and there. He's back in action again. His last win, 2019. Lost to Jack Shore in 2020. Haven't seen him since. I'm curious to see how Phillips approaches this fight because we know what Gaston Boilanos is going to want to do. I've seen him fight in Bellator a couple of times. He's a high-level Muay Thai fighter. He's going to want to stand and bang, has a vicious left hook. It'll be, if Phillips is smart, he's going to want to close the distance and take this fight down, put Boilanos on his back. I don't know whether he's smart enough to do that. I think he's going to want to play around on the feet a little bit. I think he's going to get caught, and I've picked Gaston Boilanos to win this fight. I've not put a bet down because it's very unpredictable. I don't trust Boilanos' takedown defense. I think the power is in Phillips's hands and how or if he wins this fight, because if he tries to take it down, if he turns this into a grapple heavy fight, if he fights smarts, he wins this fight. But I've seen tendencies from Phillips where he doesn't fight that smart, and I think he might get caught into a striking battle here, and I think he's going to be made pay.
And he may not get an opportunity to get to the point of fighting smart, right? In order to get inside, you got to come through the fire a little bit.
100%.
I have nothing to add. This is an absolute stay away fight for me. I'm not really sure why Aaron Phillips is sticking around and still getting an opportunity after this many years since the Jack Shore fight. He's had a bunch of fights fall out. He's been hurt, things like that. Fine, I understand. He's 0-3 in the UFC. Gaston Boilanos is only 6-3 overall as an MMA fighter. I know, as you said, some Muay Thai, some kickboxing background. things like that. But this is one of those ones where it's like, no, not even I can find ways to wager on this one. I'm picking Boilano simply because he is the more active of the two recently. And I think, as you said, this ends up being a fight that plays out largely on the feet, and he's the better striker of the two. Brings us to the opener in the flyweight division. Can't remember. Bantamweight division, perhaps. Bantamweight division.
Bantam, yeah.
Jocelyn Edwards has bounced around every division in the UFC.
I know, yeah.
Jocelyn Edwards, Lucia Pudilova, Ireland's own Lucia Pudilova to steal from Sean Sheehan.
Oh, we will claim anybody.
Who do you like? who, if either, is getting your money?
Look at. I'm Pudilova in this fight, not because she is an Irish representative of mixed martial arts training out of SBG Ireland, not because I seen her compete somewhat of a workout a couple of weeks back in SBG. I think, we know what Jocelyn Edwards will want to do in this. She'll want to stand and fight, and she wants to create this slow pace and this kind of trudgy forward pace and get off her a couple of her leg kicks and her jabs and her 1-2s. I think Lucy Pudilova is going to be a little bit quicker on the feet. What Pudilova does quite well is she uses her jab to set up the takedown. I would like to see Pudilova, if she does get this fight down, to be a little bit more active on the mat. You know, she's good in top control, but she needs to be accumulating that damage while still going for submissions. Fucking easier said than done, but she's been guilty of not doing that in the past. I think Pudilova will get it done because I think that she's going to be able to keep away from the trudginess. She's going to be able to set her style. I think her jab is better than Edwards, and I think the threat of the takedown is going to make Edwards a little bit hesitant as well. I pick Lucy Pudilova, and she will be a part of a parlay as well, which we're going to talk about after you get finished about this fight.
Yeah, I have the same assessments. I think I was really impressed with her return to the UFC last time out against Wu Yanan. I think if we see that again, we can see more success. Jocelyn Edwards is going to look to stay at range and throw deep kicks up the middle. There will be opportunities to catch them and run her to the ground. I have full faith that John Kavanagh, if I can sit here in Abbotsford and dissect that and know that that's an opportunity, I have full faith that John Kavanagh and the crew at SBG has watched that, has seen that, and has drilled that into Lucia Pudilova's head. I have no wagers on it because it is the first fight of the night. I can't really yet trust Lucia Pudilova to be the person that I think she's going to be or could be. So we'll just stay away, which brings us to the Ian O'Neill parlays. Let us have it. Let's hear them.
Let's go. This is the winner chicken dinner parlay. We've got 4 fighters in here. Was really tempted to put Tanner Boser in this one too, but when 4 turns to 5, we're really reaching for the stars when it comes to parlays. Let's be real. And we're already reaching for the stars going for 4.
Even just going for 4 is tricky.
Yeah, 100%. But what we've done is we've gone for García to get the win against Clay Guida. We've gone for Chris Gutierrez to get the win in his fight, Dustin Jacoby to get the win, and the one that really bumps up this one is Edson Barboza at plus 150 to get the win in the co-main event. A cool 25 gets you back 201 and 8 cents. I like it. It's likely one of them let me down. It's likely 2 of them let me down. It's likely all 4 of them let me down, but fuck it, we're going for it anyway. That's my first one. That's all winners straight up. We're going the distance again. I like these ones. I think hard about them. We got the last one up. We're trying to go for 2 in a row and going the distance. We've gone for Algeo, Bill Algeo and Brown to go the distance. No winner, just go the distance. We're going for Brazil and Gomez to go the distance. That is a dodgy one, I will admit, because Brazil does have power, but I think Gomez is tricky enough to keep it in there. And we've gone for Edwards and Pudilova to go the distance. The first fight of the night, we're going to get.
We're going to know right out of the gates. This is the way I like to decide.
25 gets you 86, and that's that going the distance parlay.
Well, we are on opposite sides of some of those fights in your winner chicken dinner parlay, and I'm sorry about that. I will be rooting against you actively.
Hopefully one of us comes out with fucking winner, at least.
Because I've got Pedro Munhoz in a parlay. So we're going head to head on that one. Mine is $10. It's the all Brazil parlay. It is Edson Barboza, Pedro Munhoz, and Bruna Brazil. $10 gets you $106.07. Some weird odds this time around, just the way they've all added up, that there's a lot of like small pennies being added to things here.
Money is money.
Money is money. Listen, I'm not complaining. Not complaining at all. Every cent is a profit. I also have the 3 parlays that I make every single fight card, the $1 parlays. So the main card, it is Arnold Allen, Edson Barboza, Dustin Jacoby, Tanner Boser, Pedro Munhoz, and Clay Guida. It is a 6-fight main card this time around. $1 combined odds of plus 15,981. $1 turns into 160.86. There are 4 underdogs in there. Sorry.
Yeah, if you get this one, I think you should just
5
retire.
Underdogs in there.
Yeah, you just retire, right? Yeah, you retire from all picks and plays because that's it. That's your crowning moment. That's your champ status.
If I can turn $1 into $160,
that's it. It's all over.
Nice.
Yeah, we ain't going to get any better than that.
We have the $1 preliminary card parlay, which is Bill Algeo, Matheus Nicolau, Ed Herman, Piera Rodriguez, Lando Vannata. I've got Piera Rodriguez written here twice for some reason, and I'm not sure why. So that means I'm missing.
You're so confident you put her in twice, man.
That means I'm missing somebody, so I'm going to go back and look at this. No, I'm not missing anybody. So let's do this again. Bill Algeo, Matheus Nicolau, Ed Herman, Piera Rodriguez, Lando Vannata, Denise Gomes. Not Denise Gomes. Jesus, I'm all over the place now. Bruna Brazil, Gaston Boilanos, and Lucia Pudilova. That $1 comes out to a combined odds of plus 10,506. So $1 turns into 106.08. And the full card, if we run the gamut, if we go 14 for 14,
it's all over.
I'm done. Like I'm retiring.
No, definitely. I said retire for
if
the
I
main
go 14
card, the whole lot here.
If I go 14 for 14, I'm out forever.
I'm out here. I'm presenting this shit on my own.
I'm out forever. Or I'm coming back and making big money wagers because $1 for those fighters that I mentioned, those 14 athletes that I mentioned, who again are from the top down: Arnold Allen, Edson Barboza, Dustin Jacoby, Tanner Boser, Pedro Munhoz, Clay Guida, Bill Algeo, Matheus Nicolau, Ed Herman, Piera Rodriguez, Lando Vannata, Bruna Brazil, Gaston Boilanos, and Lucia Pudilova. Combined odds of plus 1,705,495.
Holy.
$1 turns into $17,061.06. My guy, if we go 14 for 14, I'm coming out with some $1,000 bets next week. Because we will be just the ROI will be through the roof. The profits will be through the roof. But folks, as we said, it is all for fun. It is to get these laughs. It is to have this good time. It is to enjoy these fights a little bit more. We hope you have enjoyed it. Follow my guy, Ian O'Neill, the Magpie, at IO'Neill MMA. Follow me at Spencer Kite. Follow all the boys from Severe MMA. Sign up for the Patreon, severemma.com/pints. Check out all the stuff that Ian and all of the crew are doing on the YouTube page. It's good stuff. Tons of interviews lately. Io did a bunch while he was over in Ireland for his vacation/planning. More is coming. Did a great one with Will Fleury this week after his win in PFL. Certainly more coming down the pike. Check out all the stuff I've been putting up. Conversation with Elliot Marshall this week is out. The stuff previewing this show. We'll be back with all of that stuff as always again next week because the beat rolls on. We just keep going.
You keep going and going and going and going until we drop.
For the Magpie, I'm ESK. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.